Welcome to video 2, more weighted averages practice. We're going to go through a couple problems here. So in number 1, at a recent football game, John Smith had 11 carries of 7 yards each, 5 carries of 4 yards each, and 3 carries of 2 yards each. What was John's rushing average, which is average yards per carry? So if you think about this, yards over carries, that's going to be kind of your final dealio. So when I look at the data, oops, that's not the number I want to start with. Please excuse me. He had 11 carries, 7 yards each. 5 carries, 4 yards each. 3 carries, 2 yards each. By doing it this way, I can see that he had 19 carries, which we know is going to be the denominator because it's yards per carry. Then when I look at the numbers, if he had 11 carries at 7 yards each, if I multiply these, that's 77 total yards. 5 carries at 4 yards each, that's 20 more yards, and 3 carries at 2 yards is at 6. So our boy John rushed for 103 yards. Hey, 100-yard rushing game, attaboy. So now we're going to take our yards, 103, divide by the number of carries, and we know that John averaged 5.42 yards per carry. And let's go to number 2. Find the weighted average. So we've got homework, quizzes, participation, midterm, and final. And you can see the weights. Now the weights should always add up to 100%. If they don't, something's wrong. But for our case, they will. And so we simply have to multiply. Right? We're going to take our score, 95, times the weight of 15%. 84 times the weight of 20%. 96 times the weight of 5%. 79 times the weight of 30%. 62 times the weight of 30%. It's 0.3 there at the end. Sorry about that. And then we can multiply them to find out how many points you've earned in each category. So when I multiply 95 times 0.15, I get 14.25. 84 times 0.2 is 16.8. So 16.8 points earned in the quiz section. 96.05, you can see a low weight of 5% means even though you did really well in the participation, it only gives you 4.8 points. Your midterm grade got you 23.7 points, and your final exam was 18.6. You can see the higher the weight, the more points are available in that particular section. So when I add all of these together, I will end up with an overall grade of 78.15%, which is a C. Okay, that final exam really hurts you there. You need a little bit higher on the final exam in order to get a B. Excuse me. Number 3. In a local small subdivision, no dogs reside in 45%. Okay, so right there, I'm just going to stop here, and I'm going to say no dogs, that's 0 dogs, are in 45% of the house. I'm going to just write as I read. 1 dog is in 26% of the house. 2 dogs in 16% of the house. 3 dogs are in 10%, and 4 dogs are in 3. Oh, goodness, I almost messed that up. 4 dogs are in 3%. So again, if you add this up, this would be our 100%. So we simply multiply. Well, I love multiplying by 0. It's my favorite thing to do. So I multiply each of these together, and when I add all of these up, the answer is 1. This local subdivision averages 1 dog per home. Even though 45% don't have any dogs, everybody else has enough dogs to make up for it. So, let's move on to number 4. Let's do a GPA problem. So recall that every grade has points attached to it. An A is 4, B is 3, C, right, all the way down to F, where an F is worth 0 points. So if you got a B, you earned 3 points. A C is 2, a D is 1, and a B is 3. With those points, then we use what Becky calls quality points. So credit hours times the points. So 3 times 3 gives you 9 points for English. 4 times 2 gives you 8 points for math. 3 times 1 gives you 3 points for history, and 1 times 3 gives you 3 points for student success seminar. You earned a total of 23 points in this semester. It all depends on how many credit hours you took. 3 plus 4 plus 3 plus 1 is 11. So to find your GPA, we will take your points of 23, divide by your credits of 11, and you earned a 2.09 GPA for that semester. Now, if you have more semesters involved, then you got to kind of break it out further. But for just this semester, we're good. Another problem, I recommend hitting pause and trying this one on your own, just to make sure you have the idea of this down. But we are dealing with points again, and F is 0, a B is 3, A is 4, and again B is 3. So when I multiply credit hours times the points, you earned no points for your science lab because you failed it, right? That makes sense logically. 9 points earned in psychology, 12 points earned in literature, 16 points earned in physics, and 9 points earned in philosophy. So when I add all of those up, 10, 20, 30, 46, you earned 46 total points. Well, how many credits did you take? Add those together and you should get 15. And therefore, to find your GPA, we take points divided by credit hours, and you're at a 3.07. Recall that a 3 is a B, so you are averaging greater than a B. Even though you failed your science lab, everything else was good enough, and you had a lot of credits, and that helps also. Last problem. We've got 3 research papers that are 15% of your grade, 4 exams at 50%, 2 presentations are 10, the final exam is 25. Well, if you look at your data, we need 1 score for each one of these pieces, right? So we have to go down here and we need to find the average. So for my research paper, I'm going to add those together and divide by 3, and I have a 76 average on my research paper, right? We're just finding average. So for the exams, I add the 4 exams together, divide by 4, and I have a 77.25 average on exams. Presentation, add those up and divide by 2, and I have a 57.5% average on presentations. I only have 1 final exam, so that stays the same. So now when I come back up top, I'm going to change colors for fun, my research papers, 15% multiplied by my average. My exams are 15% multiplied by the average. My presentations are 10% multiplied by the average. And final exam is 0.25, multiply that by 75. So when I multiply those, figure out how many points I earned in each spot, I get 11.4, 38.625, 5.75, and 18.75. When I add up all of my points here down at the bottom so that you can see it, our average is a 74.525%, which is a C. And it makes sense. Look at your grades. Let me change color for effect here. Final exam is a C. All of your exams, your average is a C. Your research paper average is a C. Your presentation, you failed your presentations. However, because everything else, well, presentations are only 10%, but because everything else was so high, and everything else washed out, and you do end up with a C average in this class. So there is the second video for weighted averages.